In motion is Sewell. Goff to throw. Wants to throw it to Sewell. He caught it. Boy, Sewell with a first down. Oh, yes. The big man dives down to the 31-yard line. Oh, that is beautiful.
Welcome to the Twentyman the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft, and I am very excited to welcome in Jack Campbell, the new Detroit Lions, the number 18 pick in the first round. Jack, congratulations. Kind of a whirlwind 24 hours for you, huh?
Yes, sir. Thank you. First and foremost, I just want to thank the Ford family for just allowing me to be a part of this organization, Coach Campbell and Mr. Holmes for believing in me and allowing me to have this opportunity. I'm super excited to get to work. I'm super excited to be in the city of Detroit, and I'm ready to win. So,
well, let's talk about last night a little bit, or I should say draft night. What were you doing draft night, and then what was that like? What's your initial thought when that phone rings? What's that experience like?
So I was just back home, Cedar Falls, Iowa. Kept it just my close family. Just tried to enjoy the night, be with the people who got me there, and allowed me to ultimately be here today. And then I was just sitting on the couch and I saw my phone start to ring, and it was Mr. Holmes. Mm-hmm. And he said, "How's it sound? We'd like to make you a Detroit Lion." And I can't really describe just the feelings of hearing that and hearing someone just put that belief in me and give me this opportunity. Like, this is my childhood dream, and to be here now. I mean, I feel like every draft prospect says it's their childhood dream, but for me, just the time commitment, the passion that I feel like I've put into this game to finally hear someone say that and an organization select me, it meant the world to me, and I'm super excited to be in Detroit. There's no better place.
What about being able to spend that moment with family and friends too? I mean, did everybody just swarm you afterward? Yeah. It's announced, and then what was that? That rush of emotion.
Yeah, that moment was priceless. Just going around the room and just sharing hugs and words with each other. Just letting them know how thankful I am of them, but also hearing them tell me just how proud of me that they are. So
the interactions you had with the Lions leading up to the draft. I know you guys had a formal at the combine, and Kelvin Sheppard talked about your passion in that interview. Can you just talk about just maybe that specific interview, and what was it about them talking ball that got you so emotional, maybe thought initially that Detroit would be a good fit for you?
I just feel like the thing about those guys when I stepped foot in that room with Coach Shepp, Coach Campbell, and then Coach Glenn, is it was just all about football. They didn't care about anything like of your past. Like, it's just like how much you know about football and how much you love the game, and that's something that I kind of gravitated towards is just people who have a genuine passion for the game. And I feel like any winning culture, from little league to professionals, you just got to have kids that are passionate about what they do and young men that are passionate about what they do. So I feel like I put my best foot forward in that meeting and just kind of showed them who I am. I didn't change who I was. I was just Jack Campbell, and that ultimately got me here. So I'm just going to continue to do that. So
I can tell you, I've had Shep on the podcast as well and talk about a passionate guy. Yeah. I mean, are you excited to play for a position coach? Not only that's played the game, but is as passionate as he is, and he's all about ball. He's all about making young men better football players. That's got to be exciting for you, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Coach Shepp, just all the conversations we've had up to this point, like it's just all developmental, and I just love that mindset from him, and also just knowing that he's gonna push me as hard as I can be pushed, and he's gonna squeeze every little bit of potential and stuff out of me. So I'm just super excited to get to work with him, and man, I just feel like I can already tell like he's just a guy who cares about you as a football player, but even more as a human being. And that's definitely like something I'm super excited to be a part of in the linebacker room here, man. I've just heard great things about that. Great guys in there, great human beings, and just getting to know them and go out there on the field with them every single day and do what we do. So I'm just super excited to join the room and then just be led by Coach Shepp. So
We talked to your college coach, Coach Ferentz, and he said this: whoever drafts Jack Campbell won't let him leave the building for 10 years. How did playing for Coach Ferentz and Iowa kind of set you up for success in the NFL?
Coach Ferentz has been around the game as long as most of these coaches, and just his experience at the college level is second to none. He's the longest tenured head coach in college football. So, like, I feel like he knows a good player when he sees it. To hear those words from him, it means a lot to me. But at the same time, like, just keeping my mindset that I've always had, just always want more, never being satisfied. Obviously, it's super nice to have someone believe in you like that. But at the same time now, I got to go out there and show the world who Jack Campbell is. And I'm super excited to do that and get to do it at the highest level. But what Coach Ferentz and the Iowa program mean to me is just I can't put that into words. Take you in as a young 18-year-old guy and churn you out as a 22-year-old young man who is a great football player, because you're not going to leave Iowa and not be a great football player. You're going to be fundamentally sound, smart, tough, physical, and you're going to do it together for the full 60. But when you step foot out of there, like, this great young men, there's a lot of guys that I graduated with who aren't in this position, and they're now into, like, real jobs in the outside world, and I feel like they just have a leg up on, like, everyone, because they just know how to go about their business and treat people right.
You look at the track record of success and that program, bringing guys into the league that are ready to play. You mentioned it, just excited to show fans what you can do. What kind of player are fans going to see? What is Jack Campbell all about?
I feel like they're just going to see a guy who's going to, every time he steps foot on the field, put the best version of himself out there. I'm going to be Jack Campbell through and through. I'm just going to go out there and be a hardworking Midwestern kid, kind of carry that on my back, just a hard worker, just ready to kind of jump in and just get going. I feel like you're going to get a guy who's just going to be a great teammate. I'm always going to put my teammates in front of myself, always stay humble, and just allow other people to go make plays. And when my number's called upon, just go and take advantage of every opportunity. I feel like that's the main thing, is for me just continuing to take advantage of every opportunity I get. So
first impressions of Dan, Aaron, Glenn, this defense, it seems like you're a perfect culture fit for kind of what they're wanting to build, who they're wanting to add on defense. When they started talking ball with you, just the impressions of maybe how you fit into this, and it seems like a match made in heaven, really. Yeah,
no, for sure. I'm so lucky to be here in Detroit and be surrounded with these people in this building, because it is all about football and it's all about winning. And that's stuff I'm all about as well. So, but at the same time, it's also about being a good human being and finding guys that are going to do the right thing off the field and push this culture to ultimately the goal, and that's to win the Super Bowl. So.
Now, we got a pretty crack research team here with the Lions. So we went back a little bit. Now, your dad played guard at Northern Iowa, correct?
Yes, sir.
He played a year with Kurt Warner, right?
He played 1 year, yes, sir.
So were you always a UNI fan growing up, and they just got to a point where you were just too good? I'm going to be a big Power 5 conference guy.
So growing up, I just always went to UNI games and looked up to them, and I always wanted to go to the Panthers.
You want to be like Pops, right?
Exactly. I want to play for them. But as I got through high school, I had the opportunity to go to Iowa.
Yeah.
And I feel like I couldn't pass up that opportunity to go.
I'm sure Dad wasn't too disappointed with that decision,
was he? I don't think he is. I don't think he is. So, no, it's been great. So.
How excited are you just to get to football? You know, this process is obviously, you got to do the combine and workouts and travel to the pro days. You strike me as a guy who just kind of wants to get on the field and play ball. Are you excited for rookie minicamp and then to join the vets after that and just kind of get after it and get on the football field?
100%. I feel like these past couple of months have kind of been a horse and pony show, a lot of verbiage, and now it's time to get a go back to ultimately what every single player in this draft's trying to do, and that's play football. And I'm super excited to jump into rookie minicamp, and then get with the veterans, be a sponge, learn from those guys, and ultimately just help this team in any way I can. So.
Well, fans are really excited to see you on the field. You're expected to be a big part of this Detroit Lions defense. Congratulations on the 18th pick, and we're excited to see you on the field.
I'm super excited. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Welcome back to the Twentyman Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft, and I'm excited to bring in Jahmyr Gibbs, the number 12 overall pick, the newest Detroit Lions running back. Jahmyr, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no problem.
How's the day been?
Pretty smooth.
Yeah? Has it been fun?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Detroit before?
Like a week and a half ago.
For your visit?
Yeah.
So, but just take me through last night and what that experience was like, being able to do it with your friends and family. Brad said that at 12 you were the best player on their board, bar none. And so to get that phone call, to be there with the family and friends, just what was that experience like?
It was cool having all my family and friends that's been through this journey supporting me, and all being there when that moment happened. So yeah, it was cool.
What is it like? Is it nervous? Is it excitement when that phone rings and you see the number? Did you know it was Detroit? Did you have it in the caller ID, or was there some guesswork there? Or?
They got like the location on it. So when that team called, it'd be like Detroit, Michigan, or like Atlanta, Georgia, or something like that. But what was the other question?
Just, is it excitement when you see that?
Yeah, and relief too.
I bet. Did you have an idea? Did you think that from your visit here and conversations you had with Detroit before that this was maybe a good landing spot, a good fit?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I thought there's a possibility that they could have picked me, but I didn't think it was going to be at 12.
So it stems back from the Texas game. Brad was at that game, and he told us draft night that that's really where you were on his radar. What do you remember of that game? Take me back to that a little bit. I know there were some explosive runs, some big plays. How fun was that game for you?
It was very fun. It was like my first big college game.
Yeah.
So it was a great day. We won. We came out with the W. Yeah, it was fun.
So you're joining a Detroit Lions offense that finished 4th in the league last year offensively, threw for 4,000 yards, rushed for 2,000 yards. Just the excitement level of joining an offense that's already that potent, but feels like you can be a really big part of that too.
Yeah, I just think I could just make it, take something good and make it great, with what I bring to the table with my versatility, being able to make plays, in the backfield, return game, and catching passes at the backfield, and slot wide out. I think I just, whatever position they want me in, I could excel at it.
Versatility, that's the key word, right? I mean, that seems to me like that's all about your game. Here's something that an NFC executive said about you in the pre-draft process. Whenever Alabama's offense would hit a wall, they would get Gibbs involved in the passing game, and he would bridge the gap for them. I thought he was very valuable in that way. How much do you take pride in the fact that versatility is a big part of your game, that you're not just a guy that hands the ball off to and you can make big plays, that you're a guy that, like you said, can line up in the slot, can be a big part of the passing game, and can do a lot of things in that regard?
Yeah, so I would think while running backs have like a shorter lifespan in the NFL is because most of them, they didn't used to just they wasn't very versatile. Not a lot of them, like Marshall Faulk, but back then, I mean, they would just like run you to the ground. So It wouldn't be just taking all those hits. Injuries happen, and that's what led to the lifespan. So.
Where'd the hands come from? Were you always a running back? Did you start off as a receiver? Just because it seems when you watch film on you, it's just a natural ability to not only run routes, but just natural hands too. That's really a big part of your game. Where'd it come from? Just natural? Did you start as a receiver?
No, backyard.
Backyard?
Yeah. Playing with my friends and always wanting the ball. So just like 7-on-7 and stuff. Always running like goals and posts and stuff, digs and all that. And throughout football career, I played multiple positions like receiver, running back, and I played DB too. So you gotta have hands for that.
Well versed football player.
Yeah.
So how much research have you done on the Detroit Lions, and how excited are you not only to join the offense as a whole, but to run behind an offensive line? Frank Ragnow, Pro Bowl player. Taylor Decker, left tackle, one of the 10 best tackles in the league. Jonah Jackson's been to a Pro Bowl. Penei Sewell was at the Pro Bowl this year. I mean, there's 4 Pro Bowl guys, Pro Bowl caliber guys on that line. It's considered one of the best offensive lines in football. How excited does a guy like you get knowing that you'll be running behind an offensive line that's as good as these guys are.
Yeah, any running back would be excited to run through a line like that. It makes our job a lot easier.
What conversations have you had with Ben? I know when you had your visit here, and I know you've been around a little bit today, just the excitement level, maybe how they plan to use you, how your skill set maybe fits into this offense, and what have them conversations been like?
I think they plan on using me almost like the same I did at Bama, probably a little more out and wide out and stuff, running more routes, not just like goals and hitches and like slants and stuff. Probably some more like real receiver routes. So expand my route tree a little bit more, and obviously run the ball, try to be effective in both assets of the game.
Are you excited about that? Because, I mean, you're a guy, when you're in space, I mean, you are dynamic to watch, and you've got to be excited about them wanting to put you in position to be in space, not just in the run game, but in the pass game as well.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun, trying to score. So I want to get the ball as many ways as I can, not just running the ball. So, all
right, tell us a little bit about Jahmyr Gibbs off the field. What are some of the things that you like to do?
I mean, I just be chilling, really. I just be with my friends, my family, my teammates, probably get on the game or something. Because there's not much to do when I was at Bama, and from where I'm at, my hometown in Dalton. So there's really not too much to do. But when I was in Atlanta, I'd probably just go eat or something.
Well, I know you're going to like Detroit. There's a lot to do here. I know Detroit fans are going to love watching you play. Congratulations on the number 12 pick. Welcome to Detroit, and I know fans are really excited to see you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back to the 20 in the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft. And you will notice that there is a slightly less athletic person sitting next to me to the right here.
I am not a first-round pick.
We obviously heard from first-round picks Jack Campbell and first-round picks Jahmyr Gibbs. And now let's go through all the picks, Peach, because I think it was a productive day for Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions. They came away with 7 picks, 2 in the first, 2 in the second, 2 in the third, and 1 in the fifth, 1 in the seventh. So my math is wrong. That would be 8 guys, correct? Let's do 8. And let's start with right away the first round in Jahmyr Gibbs. And, I loved what Brad said post-draft when he addressed it almost by himself about, positional value. Positional value. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. And obviously there's some question marks with the running back position, with interior linebacker. Those are positions of value, not deemed positions of value in the first round. I love that he said, I don't look at Jahmyr Gibbs as a running back. I look at Jahmyr Gibbs as an explosive player that keeps this offense explosive. I don't think of Jack Campbell as an inside linebacker. I think of Jack Gibbs as a foundational piece on defense that we can build around and can do a lot of different things, And so I thought that was an interesting take by him.
First things first. I mean, if we want to start with Gibbs, I thought the trade down was great. Honestly, just the first at value, I think getting pick 34 to move back there was really a smart move because you were able to add another, second tier player there. So you got your blue chips, and then that group from 15 to 50 is all kind of the same guy. You got another pick in that range. Yeah. So that was good just right off the top. But then Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, instant impact. Yeah. I think the takeaway of the first 2 picks, the first round picks for me was just, this is a team that's ready to compete, and they wanted guys that were ready to come in. And, positional value be damned. We need football players that are ready to come in and play in 2023.
And I think when you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, you look at an explosive guy. Led Alabama in rushing yards, led him in receptions, led him in kick return yards. He talked here earlier about, really excited about being put in a position where he can be in space, and then you see that 4.3 speed. You watch the highlights of him. I mean, he is a one cut away from a 70-yard touchdown. Who he reminds me of a little bit is back in 2010 when the Lions got Javid Best. Yeah. And he was that guy that was 70 yards at any point and was a terrific wide receiver. You put that guy in space, a track guy that plays football, but attracts speed, but he's a real football player. You look at him, he's all about ball, can catch the ball. And I think, Pete, you can put him in the slot too. And it's not just you're putting a running back in the slot because he's fast. You're putting a running back in the slot because he has the route tree. He's a mismatch weapon, and he can be a big part of the pass game too. I just think he's a weapon, like Brad Holmes said.
And I think, great at Alabama last year. But then even you go back to Georgia Tech, this guy was ready. Alabama was the national stage to put him on and get his name into the first round conversation. But the Georgia Tech tape is just as good on a far worse team.
Right.
So he made the jump to Alabama and played Tennessee and played Florida and played Georgia and played that whole SEC gauntlet and didn't miss a beat, which I feel like is really important when you're looking at sustained production and sustained success. But to lead Alabama in receptions, even if you're a running back, I feel like that's got to account for something.
And that's going to be the fun part with Ben Johnson, is being able to put him in spots. And then when Jameson Williams comes back week 7, now you've got 2 guys with elite speed, one at wide receiver, one at running back / receiver, and how you can play off how they can play off each other and how that affects the run game. And we're also not forgetting that he's running behind arguably the top offensive line in football, or one of the 2 top offensive lines. So, I mean, he's going to get to the second level without being touched, and then just make a guy miss and he's gone. And you watch the film and he can do that. And look, with the trade of DeAndre Swift, he's going to get an early opportunity. He is an early impact guy, and it'll be fun to watch starting week 1.
I don't know if it's a coincidence that the same things that J-Mo was doing in his 1 year at Alabama, they get another transfer and he comes in and he's returning kicks and he's going underneath and taking, crossers upfield. Jahmyr Gibbs, it's to have both of those guys on the same team eventually in week 7 here, it's going to be dangerous. But another thing, he mentioned it, wants to expand the route tree, which I think is really important, seeing what he can do, seeing can he go downfield a little bit, how creative can you get with him? And then, we talked about it with J-Mo a lot last year. Can we get this guy a kick return? Do you want your first round pick returning kicks? Is a question, but can we let him
What did
figure
Brad
it out?
Holmes say almost to end his press conference post-draft? He said, we want to be good in all 3 phases. We want to be great offensively. We want to be stout defensively. And we want special teams to be a weapon, is what he said. How do special teams become a weapon?
You don't have a kick returner at the moment. Maurice Alexander returned a couple of kicks last year, but your primary guy, Justin Jackson, isn't here anymore.
You give Jameson Williams, you give Jahmyr Gibbs just that much room in a kick return. And you see it all the time with games. A big punt return touchdown, a big kickoff return touchdown. Most games are 1-score games. Special team scores are so huge in the league. If you want your special teams to become a weapon, don't be just good defensively and be one of the best cover teams, which the Lions were. Be explosive in return. You've got a great return man in Khalif Raymond. He's one of the best in the league. Now be explosive in the kick return game with maybe one of those guys. I think it'll be fun to watch.
And it's happened before. When Pittsburgh had Antonio Brown, he wouldn't go back there every time. But when they needed him, he would go and he would do it. So it's possible to have your best player back there. To
Sean Jackson?
Picks. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of examples. All right, let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. Jack Campbell. We heard from him earlier. Impressive young guy.
Yeah.
He's
ready. He's ready to ball.
He's ready to play. I think he would strap it up and play tomorrow and wouldn't even care.
Nope.
He's that kind of guy. He is a Dan Campbell guy. He's a culture guy. He is Dan Campbell guy through and through.
And that's what you're looking for at the linebacker position, especially too. I feel like if you're that leader in the middle and you got to rally the defense and he's got a great guy to learn from in Anzalone to do that and kind of groom him up here. But you need to be ready to go in all 3 phases. And I think the Lions have really gained a lot in coverage in Jack Campbell.
Yeah, 6'4.5", 250 pounds, 4'6", 540. But you look at some of the 3-cone, the shuttle, some of those drills that measure explosion and quickness agility. Yeah. That was number 1 amongst the linebackers. From a 6'4.5", 250-pound guy. He's a big guy. I'm struggling with the podcast, but I'm struggling with the podcast. We had Dan Campbell. Yep. We had Jack Campbell. I'm sitting next to all these tall guys. You guys are leaving comments here about how short I am. I can't help it, but you love the size with him, right? He's another one.
He's got the wingspan you're going to get in the passing lanes at the very least. You can go up, you can go out, and you can. That's combine that with the short agility, you really got something in coverage.
And the biggest thing, too, Lions ranked 29th in the league last year defending the run. 30th in average runs per carry. Opponents averaged over 5 yards per carry. I think that's where he helps you immediately. You mentioned the pass stuff. I think he does that too. But I think where we see his biggest impact is when you watch the Iowa tape. I think what jumps out is his reaction.
He's smart.
He's really, really smart, and he is north and south, and he gets there real quick.
He's gap aware. He knows what he's doing.
He gets off blocks because of his size. I think that's where he's going to have a really big impact right away.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to round 2, pick 34.
Iowa, baby.
Yeah.
Back to back.
Sam LaPorta, the tight end from Iowa. And look, we talked about it before on this podcast with some of the guests we had, Daniel Jeremiah, before the draft, that this was one of the deeper tight end groups in a long, long time. I think Daniel said he had 11 tight ends with day 2 grades or better. I mean, that is and so when you look at LaPorta, he was the second one off the board.
Yeah.
Dalton Kincaid went in the first round, and then it was Sam LaPorta. I think Mayer went right after, and there was a kind of a run on him. But what do you like about Sam LaPorta?
This guy
beyond the production
is elite at avoiding tackles. I think that's where, when you're comparing him to Darnell Washington, who went a little bit later, but Mayer especially at that top of that second round, Sam LaPorta's missed tackle percentage last year is off the charts. It was the best in the tight end class. So I think that's what you're really getting is not only can this guy move the chains and move the 6, get past the 6, first downs. When he gets the ball in his hands, he stays on his feet and he can go. And I think that's really what stood out for the Lions.
He was Iowa's offense last year. What, over 50 catches last 2 years, over 600 receiving yards. Yeah. I mean, he was the guy there. And I think,
and you think about all the Iowa tight ends.
Right.
This guy is the best receiving tight end in Iowa history. Right. And you're looking at Kittle and Hawkinson and Dallas Clark and Noah Fant.
Yeah.
This guy's the top.
Yeah. And also the fact that he's joining a Detroit Lions offense that, despite trading TJ Hawkinson, midway through the season, still had 12 touchdowns from that position.
It's a huge part of the offense.
12 that was a franchise record, and they had TJ Hawkinson for 6-7 weeks. Yeah. I think he accounted for 3 of those touchdowns. You still had 12. So Ben Johnson's very creative and being able to be creative with that tight end position. And now you've got an athlete the caliber of Sam LaPorta in that position to mix with that group in this kind of scheme that obviously has a coordinator that knows how to scheme tight ends open and get production from them, even if they're not elite players. Even though, I like Brock Wright, I like James Mitchell. I think those guys are still going to be a big part of it too. Now you add Sam LaPorta to the mix. I think you've really improved your tight end group.
I think between LaPorta and especially James Mitchell, who I still really like, you have 2 dynamic athletes after the catch. I mean, that's what we saw from James Mitchell last year. Is you could get him, in the slot underneath, and he can turn upfield and make a couple guys miss because he's so big. He's got the long legs. He can do everything. Now you have Sam LaPorta who can do the same exact thing. So you got 2 seam busters up the middle now that can make guys miss after the catch.
All right, let's go back to the defensive
side. Let's go back to the defense
of the ball. Their second round pick, number 485 overall. And PJ, I think this was maybe the best value in the entire draft.
It's my favorite player in the class.
Yeah. And it's Brian Branch, the defensive back. And I'm not calling him a cornerback. I'm calling him a defensive back from Alabama because, look, I know he played the majority of the time in the nickel, and I think that's going to be his role initially in the pros. But I think you can move him to safety. I think in a bind, you can put him outside. Obviously, he excels in the nickel, and that's, where he really shined at Alabama. But he's just a defensive back. He's a guy that I think can be a weapon on defense. I think he's a guy that you can move around, match up. You can play the dime with him. Look, you're in sub package more than 70% of the time in the NFL right now. So that 5th defensive back, imagine that's a guy like Branch who has size, has speed, can play a number of different positions. You can move him around as a matchup weapon. I think that's going to be really fun for Aaron Glenn.
I wrote it in our Detroit Lions mock draft. I had Brian Branch at 18 on Thursday night. Wow. So to get him at 45,
value is there for you. Certainly.
I'm in. But this is what I wrote. You currently have the best hybrid DB in the league in C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah.
You're adding Brian Branch. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's on a 1-year deal. If he wants to come back, great. If he doesn't, there's 1 for 1. There's your replacement.
Well, and you're looking to the future. I looked at 2023. Let's say something happens to Tracy Walker.
Yeah, you got
So
him.
now you can move C.J. Gardner-Johnson to safety, and you can put Brian Branch in the nickel. And I don't think you really
You're not
you lose anything.
You're
or
ready.
you can do it the opposite way. Branch can do some safety stuff. You can keep it gives you options and versatile defensive backs, and that's what they got with C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Mosley and Cam Sutton. It gives you options back there. And look, cornerback, defensive back, safety, it's the most injured position in football. Like, you've got to be a certain size to play that position unless you are elite, and you've got to take on offensive linemen in space. You've got to take on big running backs. I mean, just the injury rate at that position is the highest in the NFL. So you can't have enough, in my opinion, really good cornerbacks, versatile cornerbacks, guys that can do a lot of different things that leaves your options open.
Yeah, and you look at Branch's college career, there are not a lot, especially of DBs, that play for Nick Saban as a true freshman
Right.
and see real time. And this guy had 7 pass breakups and 2 interceptions as a true freshman on the college football playoff team.
I mean, what were his stats last year? They were ridiculous.
Yeah, he had 14 pass breakups, I think, last year.
I think he had 10 tackles for loss or plus 10 tackles for loss, 90 overall tackles, 3 sacks.
This is
just a guy who does it all.
that has 3 years of experience for Nick Saban, like really playing as a true freshman. They're not the last guy to have that was Patrick Surtain, and that one's worked out pretty well in the pros so far.
Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but you know what else I liked about him?
He stayed.
I love the fact that he stayed.
He stayed.
I love the fact that
great.
there was a young man who expected to be a first-round draft pick, obviously very disappointed round 1 he didn't hear his name called, stayed there because he wanted to experience walking out there, going on the stage in that moment. Other guys in the room didn't. They left. I love the fact that he stayed and wanted to be part of that moment. To me, it tells me he loves ball.
Yeah.
You know? He loves the ball. He loves the moment. Loves football. Just, again, a Campbell, Holmes, Lions type guy.
Another Lions DB that stayed after thinking he was going in the first round, Darius Slay.
Darius Slay. He's had an all right career.
He's all right.
He's okay. All right, let's move to the third round. And I know fans have been eager to get a quarterback in here the last couple years. Yep. Look, Jared Goff is a guy. We both agree with that. There's no disputing that. But they had to address the talent and the depth of that quarterback room. Look, they re-signed Nate Sudfeld. Obviously, reports are out there. They have, before the draft, they had a contract offered out to Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy, smartly as a veteran, was going to maybe see how the draft went and see what his options were. That could still be in play. We'll see how that develops afterward. But in Hooker, can I make an admission here? And you're probably not. I know you're not going to agree with me because we've gone back and forth on this before. Hooker was my second favorite quarterback in this class.
Bold.
Very bold.
Bold. But
Bryce Young was one. I like C.J. Stroud. I know you like Anthony Richardson, but I like Hendon Hooker right there with C.J. Stroud. That's how much I like him.
He's a player, man.
He's a player. He's accurate. And look, I know that Tennessee system is a little bit quirky. It's a lot of option routes with receivers and high tempo. But if you just watched him and you watched how he handled himself in the pocket, the accuracy, 67%, 80 touchdowns throughout his entire Tennessee career. And then I think a very underrated part of his game is when he decided to take off and run. Look, he ran for over 400 yards this past season before the ACL. So, and some of those, like, he finished those runs, And so I think you're getting an athletic guy. You're getting a smart guy. People talk about his age, right? PG's 25 years old. He's too old. What is the role of a backup quarterback in the NFL?
Ready when your number is called.
And also, to me, it's to support the starter.
Yeah.
It's to be that guy in the film room that can see things and relay that to the quarterback. It's that guy that helps prepare the quarterback throughout the week to do his job better. A 25-year-old experienced guy with 49 and 2 different systems. I think there's a guy that can come in and support and help Jared Goff and the quarterback, which, look, you're right. He's got to be ready to play and ready to go. But when the number one guy's healthy, that job is to support the quarterback, make him better. And I think a guy that's 25 years old, that's played as many games as Hendon Hooker, I think he can do that.
Yeah, and what are we going to see this year with the ACL? It's might be nothing. It really this is a down the road thing, but you have him for 4 years, so let's see what you got. But you mentioned the legs. I think that's the biggest thing to me. We've seen what a running quarterback can do to a defense. Jalen Hurts played very well against the Lions last year. This is just another dynamic, and he doesn't have to be your starter to come in goal line packages. If you need somebody to burst through QB power on the goal line and get a QB sneak first down or make something happen with his legs, there are sub packages that you could throw him in and get him out there. But as a quarterback, I mean, he can throw. It's a pitch and catch thing. If guys were open, he showed that at Tennessee, and this is it's really an ideal situation because he doesn't have to be rushed in to anything whatsoever.
He's got developmental traits, which is all you can ask for with a young
third round pick,
especially.
Pick. I mean, it's just, you want to talk about positional value. It's hard to dispute for a guy. That one.
Yeah. So we thought day 2 was over. Yeah. We were getting ready to go home and enjoy it. And no, Brad Holmes had...
Trader Brad.
Yeah, Brad Holmes had other ideas. He traded a 4th and 2 fifth-round picks. That's quite a bit of capital there, Peach, to move back into the 3rd round to take Broderick Martin.
Hilltoppers.
The Hilltoppers. I know you guys are probably saying, who?
Western Kentucky,
Broderick Martin. And I think this is a great example of the value of the East-West Shrine Game, the value of the Senior Bowl, and how some of those guys that are actually going to these events, practicing and playing football, and you're being evaluated on football, can sometimes pop onto
especially
teams'
the smaller
radars
school guys
when they come and they get to see, because at this point you've just seen them dominate lower level competition. So the big thing with those guys is going to those all-star games and playing better competition. And then now if you still dominate or you stand out during that week, now what the teams do is they go back to the tape and they go back to the evaluation, and then they're going to watch that tape throughout the week, and now your projection gets better. And that was the case with Broderick Martin, a 330-pound space-eating defensive tackle, nose, 1-2 technique. But when they saw him, they saw a guy who moved like a 300-pound guy, like a 290-pound guy, not a 330-pound guy. So I think they see huge upside with him. Come in here, get some technique work, strengthen his hands a little bit. He's already got the quick step in the burst. Now they think maybe they can give him that he can give them, some juice in the middle, play on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and be a great addition to the middle of that defense with Aleem McNeil, Isaiah Buggs, and those other guys.
He's got 35-inch arms too. So if you're running right up the middle, you are running into a massive human being, which I think is important. But this is just, you saw what the run defense was. We mentioned it with Jack Campbell. I think this is, this was the pick that was on the whiteboard. It's like, we are stopping the run.
Yeah.
And this is the guy that you're bringing in to help do that. But I think even bigger in the pass game, he's on the field. I think you might be able to see Aleem McNeil talked about, cut a little bit of weight, wants to get more athletic, more consistent this year.
20% body fat.
Yeah. So
he lost.
Could we see, Broderick Martin at nose, Aleem McNeil, play a little 3, pass rush a little bit more, use that athleticism, see if you can get a little more juice out of Aleem in the pass game. This could open the door for that if he doesn't have to just play nose every snap.
100%. They needed to add to that position. In my opinion, that was the biggest need coming into the draft. They needed to get another body to add to that interior mix. Broderick Martin is the guy. All right, so let's go to the final day. And look, the final day of the draft, Peaches, that's when you're looking for traits, right? I mean,
projectable.
Yeah, because, if guys were clean prospects, they would have gone first, second, third round. When through 4th or 7th, you're looking at guys you think fit your scheme, certain traits that maybe you really love in a football player. There might be some deficiencies, some things guys need to improve on, but that's what you're looking for. And so the first pick that they had, 152, 5th round, they take Colby Sorsdal, big, massive, 6'5", 300-pound right tackle, 5-year starter at William & Mary at right tackle. But a guy, again, like we talked about with Martin, went to the East-West Shrine Game, really stood out. Teams wanted to see him at guard, which he moved to, had never played before in college, and was really good during that week against good competition. So I think that might be in his future. He's got 33-inch arms, a little bit small for a tackle, 10-inch hands, which aren't bad, but you'd like to see them a little bit bigger. I think the fact that the Lions have a need for an interior offensive lineman, he was a guy that moved inside at the East-West Shrine game and almost looked better at that spot than he did at tackle. I think that could be in his future, but a versatile guy and another guy they can just throw to an already area of strength of this football team.
You don't really see many offensive linemen with 46 career starts.
Right.
I mean, this is an experienced player. So at the very least, that's just game reps. You're used to live reps, and he's played ever since he was a true freshman. First offensive lineman at William & Mary to start as a true freshman since 1983.
Look at you.
So making
Look
a
at
little
you
bit of
pulling the
history.
stats.
That's
wow.
That's a good
this
stat
is
for you. But this is a guy, he's got ability to move.
Yeah.
You're looking at what they had on the East-West Shrine Bowl from on the broadcast. He was able to move laterally a little bit, get out there in space. If you're running some outside zone, some wide zone, he can get out there and kind of throw some blocks, move some weight around. The Lions used a 6 offensive lineman, a jumbo set more than anybody else.
That's a good point, too.
By the end of the year, Matt Nelson was very good at that last year and is still here. But by the end of the year, could he be out there running a little bit? You saw what Sewell can do, moving his weight around in Green Bay. Could that be something that we see by the end of the year? It's just an athlete, an experienced athlete that has time to develop, obviously behind a great offensive line.
All right, let's finish this out. 7th round, pick 219. They moved up 30 spots from 249 to 219 in the Swift trade with Philly, and they take Antoine Green. Here's a guy from North Carolina, spent 5-year guy, and you look at every year he got better, substantially.
Saw some more time,
better.
Got more snaps.
Yeah, in his last year, 6'2". 200 pounds, 4.47 40, so sub 4.5 guy at that size, and 19.0 average yards per catch. Like, that's the number that stood out to me. He was their vertical threat. And I think, look, we talked about you're going to miss Jamison Williams for the first 6 weeks. I think here's a guy that's going to get an opportunity to come into camp. He makes some plays. He's got size, good 50-50 ball guy, vertical guy. You start to make some plays, and maybe there's an opportunity there with Jamison Williams gone for you to fit into this offense in that kind of role of moving down the field. Maybe an X guy that they're going to maybe miss here for the first month and a half of the season.
I was going to say, I think the size is the biggest thing. So you got Josh Reynolds, big dude. Marv's a big dude. But then you're looking at the rest. It's like, okay, Amon-Ra, smaller. Khalif Raymond, smaller. Tom Kennedy, smaller. You got a 6'2" body out there now that has experience on the outside, and the 19 yards per catch is it's a real number. It's pretty good. Yeah. So you're looking downfield that somebody can go up there and get it. And when you're he said in his media call that he had experience at Gunner and played a little bit of teams, which is a 7th round pick you're gonna have to do if you want to stick around. So that's just an added bonus. But I think really when you're looking at the Lions wide receiver room, even with J-Mo in it, another body at that size, it could be really key.
So I look at Jahmyr Gibbs, I look at Jack Campbell, I look at Sam LaPorta, Brian Branch. I think these are going to be early impact guys. I think Martin's got a chance to be a rotational guy pretty early on. You mentioned that swing tackle rule for Sorsdal. I think there's an opportunity there. Green will have a chance. I think, my takeaway from this draft is I think they got their kind of guys, and I think they got a collection of guys that they expect to impact football games pretty early on in their career. Now, look, they're rookies. You can't expect too much from a lot of these guys, but in terms of Gibbs and Campbell especially, and I'd even put LaPorta in there, I think they're going to have a chance to be really impact players early on, starting caliber guys that end up, being or having a good allotment of production. And so overall I like the draft. I think it was a good draft by Holmes. They got their guys, and speaking of which, we're going to have Brad Holmes on the podcast this week. He's going to join me this week. We're going to go over all these picks. We're going to go over just kind of what he thinks of the impact these guys are going to have and the next steps in the off season. So what'd you think of
overall? I think this is a draft, a list of a team that's ready to play and a team that's ready to compete right now. And you can harp on the positional value, but when Jahmyr Gibbs is out there and gets 15 touches early on in the season and you see what he can do with that changes a lot of things, especially for a team that just fundamentally wants to run the ball down your throat.
Yeah.
Between the investment in David Montgomery, which was a real monetary investment, and then the 12th overall pick, I don't think they're shying away from that at all.
So we've got the rookie mini camp coming up. We'll break down that. We've got the schedule release in a
There's a lot
couple
going
weeks.
on.
We'll have
Draft's
that.
over.
We
Still
already
busy.
talked. We're going to have Brad Holmes on for Thursday's podcast release, and so we'll kind of put the draft in a bow there and move on to some of the things in the offseason. So we've got a busy few weeks here on the podcast. Peach, thanks for joining me. Thank you guys for joining us, and stick around the next couple weeks. There's a lot of content, and it'll be a lot of fun podcasts.